function of an effective grip is nothing more than getting leverage on the pistol. Okay, that's what you want. If you have your hand down like so, this is just an exaggeration. As the gun lifts and recoil, you'll see I'm at a mechanical disadvantage at this point. Okay, it's going to give it more room to rock. So to counter that, what I want to do is take my strong hand or my firing hand and place the web of my firing hand directly or right onto as high as possible on the back strap of the pistol. That's my first point of contact. Second point of contact is going to be the middle knuckle of my firing hand going underneath the trigger guard, just like so. And the remaining fingers, of course, will wrap around the front strap. You'll notice that my strong thumb stays up high for two reasons. That's so I can manipulate the safety, but it also leaves a nice opening there for my support hand to get into. Okay? If that strong thumb falls down, you won't be able to get 100% contact with the pistol. And that's going to cause the pistol to recoil in a very erratic way, in a very unpredictable manner. So make sure you keep that up high. Now the third point of contact will be the index finger on my support hand. It's going to go directly underneath the trigger guard. Okay, that's important. A lot of folks, a very, very common thing I see is they want to place it up top because it just feels good. Well, the issue there is sympathetic muscle reflex. When you're pulling with your firing hand, this hand wants to do a little bit of that as well. And with the pistol, you can see it. It's very unforgiving. These are some of the hardest firearms to actually fire. So if you, in fact, my buddy there, Angus Hobdell, he likes to put his finger on top. He's a world champion shooter. Everybody, let's give Angus a round of applause there. Great job, Angus. But next time, don't put your finger up top. Right? So he's got to learn still. Anyway, but you can, guys. You will manipulate that muzzle pretty easily, and that's something I want you to take completely out of the equation. So take your support hand, place it directly underneath the trigger guard there. That'll be your third point of contact, and the remaining fingers will wrap around the front strap as well and make contact with your firing hand. And just like we talked about, that nice little opening is where your support hand is going to get into. Okay. Now, as far as my thumbs are both pointed out toward the target. That's going to allow me to have an index toward that target, but more importantly, it's going to make sure that my support hand is pointed at a 45-degree angle downward. That's key, because when the gun lifts and recoil, I really have to allow the techniques to work for me like we talked about. And if my hand is at a 45-degree angle downward like so, as it lifts and recoil, I'm already have somewhat of a mechanical advantage in pushing that gun back down to target for a much faster shot-to-shot time. Now, again, if I was the opposite, if my fingers are pointing out straight down range, what happens is the gun lifts and my hand's going to start slipping, and I'm going to be ever changing my grip, and that's going to take us time. So I want to just quickly demonstrate that with someone here. Ma'am, if you come up to me, I'm going to give you my hand here. Just go ahead and torque it up. Pretty easy to do, right? I'm not going to do anything else. I'm not going to death grip it. I won't break your hand if you don't break my hand. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and place it down at 45, and now just try to break it again. Pretty hard to do, right? Okay, it's not impossible, but it does increase your success rate of getting back down to target. So as far as the grip goes, that's very, very important, making sure that support hand is at that 45. So be sure to check that out when you do it. Another thing I want to talk about is grip pressure. Grip pressure, it's kind of a weird situation. Everybody's a little bit different. But I have 30 to 40% of the pressure in my firing hand and 60 to 70% or the remaining pressure in my support hand. And can anybody tell me why I have less pressure in my firing hand? Anybody? Not you. Anybody? To work the trigger, yes. Very good. So for a couple of reasons, so I can manipulate it. Sorry, Dad. So I can manipulate the trigger nice and smooth to the rear, but also more rapidly. Because remember we talked about we start tensing up. Okay. We start tensing up. It's going to cause you to be slow on the trigger. And if anybody's had trigger freeze, meaning you don't let the trigger reset, I do it all the time. We all look like goofballs, especially Tony. So we're out there, and you don't let the trigger reset. You're gonna, it's going to give you a very unpredictable pattern as well, but you're going to be slower. So make sure you're nice and smooth on the trigger, and as well as more rapidly by having less pressure. Now, 30 to 40% is kind of hard to say what that is. So just envision having a hammer in your hand, and you're driving a nail into a piece of wood. That's about all the pressure you need. The rest of the pressure is going to come from this. Okay. Last thing is trigger finger placement. There's a lot of different theories again. Nothing's wrong. It's whatever works best for you. But bullseye guys stick them all the way in. Rifle guys put a little tip in. Whatever works best for you. But as far as speed shooting and combat shooting, I'm going to take the center pad of my index finger, the very center of it, and place it flat on the trigger. Okay? If you put too much finger in as a right-handed shooter, you're going to find yourself, as you pull the trigger back, you're going to find yourself pulling shots to the right. If you put too little finger in, you're going to find yourself pushing over. And maybe you have great intentions and you just can't get to the trigger. This here, the X5L1, has an adjustable trigger. It can slide forwards and backwards. If you're running a 1911, make sure you set up your triggers accordingly so where they fit you personally, so that your finger is just at a perfect 90 and resting flat on the trigger. Okay, so be sure that that'll ensure that you can pull it straight back to the rear. So if you're one of those folks that are shooting a perfect group left or a perfect group right, analyze how much finger you're putting in there, because that's going to be the issue there. Any questions on the stance and grip? I know I went through it real quick.